Hi everyone, manredFC back again. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching, and thank you to those that have subscribed since, which is fantastic, so thank you. I'm going to spend probably about 10-15 minutes just previewing the games that we've got today. So it's match day 2 for most, it's match day 1 for Manchester United. So we'll have a quick look through the teams and see kind of where we think the results may lie and what that might do to the table. So obviously the early kick-off this weekend, which is in 2 hours' time, is Everton versus West Brom. Now, as we can tell, and as we saw from the last game, Everton did very well away from home against Spurs, beating them 1-0. It could have been more. They looked very good. The midfield was very, very, very strong indeed, going up against a West Brom side that lost at home to Leicester 3-0. Now, when we're looking at West Brom, their main strength is their aerial duel. So they'll look to exploit that with free kicks. They'll look to bombard the box with crosses and obviously try to play those percentage passes to try and win free kicks around Everton's box. The problem is they're quite poor at finishing. They often find themselves getting caught offside and they don't often keep possession of the ball. Now, when you're playing against a team like Everton that are really good at doing that, with players like James Rodriguez that we saw against Spurs, who was very effective, and players like Allen that can screen really well, and Decore that can kind of get to that box-to-box, feeding into a very potent Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin. Maybe Richarlison will be better today. Then West Brom are kind of looking probably as if they're going to lose the next one as well, again. So my kind of thoughts today is that Everton are going to walk this one quite easily. I'm sorry to say, West Brom fans, if you're watching. I think it could be another 3-4-1 maybe. I'm going to say 3-1 to Everton for this one. I think West Brom might win a free kick or get a goal from a corner, winning that aerial battle. But I think Everton will have too much. They'll control the midfield. They might even go 2 or 3 up and then kind of sit back, as it were, allowing West Brom onto them for the final 10 or 15. So I think that's going to be the result of the first fixture. Sorry to say, West Brom fans. Moving on to the next one, which is Leeds versus Fulham. So it's a fixture from last season, from the Championship, but now we're in the Premier League. Now, obviously, as I said, from the review of Matchday 1, I thought Leeds were fantastic against Liverpool. They gave them a really close run for their money, and in my opinion, it should have remained a draw. I mean, I know Rodrigo dangled a leg, conceded a penalty, and the result is 4-3. So, it is what it is. You get what you deserve. But as I said, there couldn't have been any arguments from anyone if it did remain 3-3, and I think Leeds were a testament to themselves and to Bielsa. So I can see that continuing. And obviously, Leeds have a wonderful threat down both wings. They create a lot of chances through a lot of individual skill, like we saw with their first goal. And they're able to finish. The one thing they're maybe not as strong at is winning the aerial duels in the air. Again, defending their own wings because they're so attacking going forward, which might be something that Fulham look to exploit. But I think the only way Fulham stand a chance of getting anything from this game is if they really utilise those aerial duels and use those set pieces well, because that's not a strength necessarily of Leeds. Being such a potent team going forward, they do often leave a bit of space going back the other way. However, Fulham, not particularly strong in comparison to Leeds. They were obviously quite far behind in the Championship last season, and I believe that Leeds have had a better summer. So I think Leeds will win this game. I think it will be probably 2-0 to Leeds today. The way that Fulham could get anything from the game, I think, is from those set pieces. I can't see them really opening up Leeds through free-flowing attacking play. I don't think Fulham necessarily have the players. Yes, they've got players like Kearney, who's a good player, and Kamara and Mitrovic, but obviously Mitrovic is very good in the air, so they need to try and exploit that if they can. But I don't see that necessarily happening. So my prediction for this game would be 2-0 to Leeds. Now, moving on to the next game, which is the 5:30 kickoff today, is my team, Manchester United, coming up against Crystal Palace. Now, Palace obviously won last week, 1-0. I think they're at home. Yep, they're at home to Southampton. Could have been 2, but Wilfried Zaha was just offside. Now it's obvious that Palace have got threats. They're very, very quick from the wings and they like to cut in. My only concern with that is our left back situation. Now, if Luke Shaw plays, I think we're stronger. If he doesn't, I think that might be an area of concern. But also our midfield three is an area of concern. Now, if we try and play Bruno Fernandes, Van der Beek, or Bake, I should say, and Pogba, then there's not going to be a lot of screening going on there, which will leave a lot of space. Obviously, Palace will try and do what they did last season, throw balls into the box and try and challenge our centre-backs. And if David De Gea starts, then obviously he's not someone that commands his area. So they could see some joy from that. Obviously, as a Manchester United fan, I think we're going to win. I think we'll have too much for them. I think creatively we're very, very strong. And I hope to see Mason Greenwood starting on the right and Rashford on the left. And again, pretty similar to Crystal Palace, both are able to cut in and finish with decent potency. So I think it'll be one of those games. I don't think it'll be a walk in the park. I think it'll be a 2-1. And I even think it might go from 1-0 to us to 1-1. And then it'll be a case of, the last 10, 15 minutes that we've seen so often at Old Trafford, that we kind of keep knocking. And it might even be a penalty that gets us that win. But I think we will just edge it and finish the game 2-1 there. Moving on to the fourth game of the day. So it's Arsenal versus West Ham. And obviously Arsenal started the season fantastically away from home, winning 3-0 away to Fulham. And we obviously saw that, although there's a bit of a wobble at the start of the game for Arsenal, a bit of confusion between the goalkeeper and Gabriel, they were very strong, very solid, weren't they? And they walked the game in the end, and it could have been probably more than 3. Now with the game today, they're obviously up against a harder opponent in West Ham, but West Ham in weekday 1 lost at home 2-0 to Newcastle. So they hadn't started particularly strong themselves. And the weird thing with West Ham is I think there's a very odd hangover from the summer. I don't think the fans, I don't think that some of the players, I don't think even the owners are all on the same page. And I think you're going to probably start seeing that already. David Moyes isn't a very inspiring manager, in my opinion. But having said that, you've still got effective players. You've got players like Yarmolenko, Antonio, Declan Rice, obviously screening the back four, and Souchet that's in your midfield that look on occasion to be quite effective. And obviously Felipe Anderson on his day can be very good as well. But we haven't seen it enough, very inconsistent. That might be down to style of play, confidence, maybe motivation to play for West Ham, I don't know. But they don't look like they are fulfilling potential. I think Arsenal are on the other side of the curve. Although I still believe they need 1 or 2 signings, it looks like Mikel Arteta has got them motivated and got them playing in a way that means that they can get results. And obviously when you've got players like Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette doing as well as they are, and obviously Aubameyang signing a new 3-year deal, say it right, I think there'll be a lot more confidence that obviously they can repeat the performances that we've been seeing. And, you have to say, since Arteta's come in, they've been fantastic. So I can only see an Arsenal win here. I think it'll be 3-1. I think Arsenal will probably go up 3-0, actually. And it'll be a case of West Ham will score in the second half at some point. But it's going to be a stroll for Arsenal, I think, for me. I think there's too much controversy at West Ham. They're not settled. And I think Arsenal are. Not to mention the quality difference. So for my money, if I was going to bet, which I don't, it will be Arsenal that wins that. Moving on to Sunday, it's Southampton against Tottenham. Now, I'll be very interested to see if Bale's signed, whether he'll be involved. I don't know if he's injured, so I might be wrong. I know you're getting Reguilón as well at left back. So what I thought was a very odd summer for you in the last video, could it quickly turn into quite a good one? I mean, if you get Bale and Reguilón in, then I think there's a threat for top 4 there. Now, obviously, played really poorly against Everton last weekend. Really defensive tactics, and that's a very Jose Mourinho-esque way forward, isn't it? Having been a United fan, I'm still scarred by his tenure here. So Tottenham, no matter who's in your squad, and I felt this, in United and Old Trafford, that the man that's in charge is just going to restrict. I mean, Gareth Bale is such a potent player going forward, but Jose Mourinho likes players that are going to do their due diligence going back. So is he going to allow Bale to be as creative and attacking as he wants to be? I don't know. But obviously that's for another video potentially. However, Southampton lost the opening day of the season against Palace. They weren't particularly inspiring. They weren't very potent. They weren't the usual selves. But again, it's the start of the season. Fitness is up and down. But they've still got really good players. James Ward-Prowse and obviously Danny Ings are big threats for them. And I can actually see it being a draw this game. I can see it being probably a 1-1. I can see Tottenham scoring first. I can. Probably a Harry Kane. And then Southampton coming back into it, kind of knocking on the door, Tottenham missing a few chances, and then Southampton getting that all-elusive goal from Danny Ings, getting his name on the score sheet, as it were, and starting his tally for the season. So sorry, Spurs fans. I can see that being a draw. I know last season you didn't travel very well, and I can't see that improving yet. But obviously, I think there will be a lot of improvement for Spurs coming this season when you include players like Bale and Reguilon as well. Excuse me. Moving on to the next fixture on the Sunday is Newcastle at home to Brighton. Now, last week, Newcastle obviously did very well, winning 2-0 away. Brighton, not so much, losing at home 3-1 to Chelsea. But it's Chelsea. Chelsea are obviously a very strong side, really good players, and we didn't know how to take them. So it's really hard to set up and plan for Chelsea with the summer they've had. And I think we saw that against Brighton. Although having said that, there were a lot of moments in the game where you thought Brighton actually could have got back into it. So it wasn't as convincing as a 3-1 may suggest. And that's what Brighton have got. They're managed well, and they're a team that really do fight until the end. I can see this being a really close game, actually. I think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a 2-2. I think Newcastle, although they're quite good going forward with St Maximin and players like that and Almiron, I do think that they're still susceptible at the back. And Brighton Hove Albion will probably score 1 or 2, and I think they'll score first. I think it might even go 1-0 to Brighton, then 2-1 to Newcastle, and then Brighton to get the equaliser towards the end. So I can see that being a draw. On to obviously the biggest fixture of the weekend, which I'm excited to see, is Chelsea versus Liverpool. Now this is a huge game. Obviously Chelsea have a lot of their new players in. No time to gel, obviously. Thiago Silva might get a start. Now he's been training. Will we see Thiago Alcantara starting for Liverpool in midfield? Who knows? Will they have Diego Jota in the squad by then? Again, who knows? Both teams winning last week, so matchday 1. Chelsea a bit more convincing than Liverpool, but you have to say Liverpool, when they go forward, look like it's scoring at every opportunity. Now this is quite an interesting one, and it's quite a difficult one to predict, because I thought last season when Chelsea played Man City at Stamford Bridge that Man City would win. But Chelsea did really well, and obviously won 2-1. So I'm kind of looking at this going, it's quite easy to say that Liverpool will win because they're such a good side and they've been so good last season. But having watched them against Leeds, they don't look really tied to the back. I think it's going to be high scoring. What am I going to say? I think it's going to be a draw. I do. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I can't swing it at the minute. If Liverpool are more consistent in their transitions, because they've been a bit wobbly of late, then I would say Liverpool to win, because they're so potent going forward, and obviously Klopp's got them playing in his system, and he's had that for years, whereas Frank is still finding his. And with a lot of new players, that's difficult. But Liverpool just look really poor defensively, and Chelsea have got such good potent attacking players that they will score. I think it will all rely on how well Chelsea do in their defensive unit, because it could end up being a 3 or 4-2 to Liverpool, but I think they will hold firm and it'll be a 2-2 in the end. So I think it'll be a great game, but I can't really split them. So let me know your thoughts on that. You might disagree. Moving on to the next one. So we've got Leicester Burnley. Again, a really good game. Like, I remember years ago, you go, oh, Burnley, they're going to struggle, but with Sean Dyche, they're a really, really, really good team, set up really well. They play as a unit, don't they? They attack and defend together, and they're so hard to play against. I despise playing Burnley. I hate watching United play Burnley, because I know I'm going to get really strong challenges, really decent set pieces into the box, and actually they can play as well. So it's going to be an interesting game. And obviously with Leicester at the end of last season, I was a bit like, this is again one that could go either way. I think Leicester might just have too much. Obviously they did well, 3-0 away to West Brom, matchday 1. And Burnley, This is their first of the season, so this is their match day 1. So they might not have the legs or the fitness that necessarily Leicester might have. That game might prove to be the difference. I think it might I think it's only going to be a 2-1. It's not going to be a huge walk in the park for Leicester, in my opinion. But I think they will just scrape it. I think they've got really good attacking players, and obviously Vardy with 2 already will add to his goal scoring tally again. I think Burnley, it might have just come a bit too soon for them, this sort of fixture. And in a few weeks' time, they might have gone there and actually been able to get a draw. But I think this time round, Leicester will win. So I think it'll be a 2-1, but it'll be a close game. I think Burnley will hold their own for a lot of it. On to the next one. Now, this is quite an important fixture. I've been saying this to a few people that have commented on some of my videos for Sheffield United. They're travelling to Aston Villa. And obviously, match day 1, neither were particularly... Villa haven't played, obviously, but Sheffield United lost at home 2-0. Now, Wolves are obviously a European side now, so a very potent attacking force. But I didn't think Sheffield United were brilliant. So there's obviously a lot of room to improve. They could have scored, but they weren't quite at the races. And again, I think it's a fitness issue. And the fact that it was the start of a season, with Wilder, he likes his teams to work as a unit in all transitions. So it's not just a case of all sitting and allow the front six to do what they want. They work through the lines together. And I think that just takes a bit more time to embed from the start of a season. It's a bit of rust. And I think we saw that at the end of after lockdown. That's why they drifted off maybe as well. And I think not having fans really affects them. But they're away from home, so they're not relying on that. Obviously, Aston Villa is their first game of the season. And it's a really big opportunity for them to just stake their claim and put their flag in the sand, as it were, and say, do you know what? We are going to get a result. We're going to get off the mark, and we're going to get some points on the board. But Sheffield United have to do this as well. If Sheffield United lose this game, I think that's a big problem. And I know it sounds sensationalist and 2 games in, but actually 0 points, and having lost 2 games, 1 at home and 1 away to Aston Villa, who I think are going to be around the relegation battle going down. I think Sheffield United have to win, and I think they will. I think Sheffield United will win that one. I think it will be a 2-1. I think even Aston Villa might go up 1-0 first, and there'll be a bit of pressure. And Sheffield United fans, you might be a bit worried about that. But I think Sheffield United will pull through in the end. I think Villa, being their first game, they'll run out of steam a bit, and that's when Sheffield United will potentially just take over and score those 2 goals that they need. Villa are so obviously reliant on Jack Grealish, so it's great news for them that he's signed a 5-year deal. What I find laughable, though, is that they think that because he signed a 5-year deal, he's staying for 5 years. He isn't. He's holding value, and he'll be with you for the next season. But make no mistake, if a club comes in the summer, next season, he's going. I mean, he even said in an interview, I was 50-50. Okay, that's not someone that's really devoted and passionate for signing for his club, is it? That's someone that maybe thought about leaving. So great news for Villa, because he's such a good player, and Villa are a good club. But let's not get it twisted. If one of the top 6 come in from in the summer, he's gone. And if you got relegated last season, he would have been gone. So I think it's huge, but I think the responsibility placed on him is going to be too much. And I don't think you're going to win. I think it's going to be 2-1 to Sheffield United. Last game of the weekend, which I'm actually really excited to see as well, is Wolves against Man City. Now, Man City haven't played yet. Wolves obviously beat Sheffield United in week 1. Really close game, this one. But if Wolves lose Jota and he's not playing, they lose that kind of flair from the left-hand side and the running power he's got. I think City will win this, unfortunately. They've got so much quality, haven't they? And Pep's going to have a sore arse about last season, so he's going to want them to start well. And I think they will. I'd like nothing more than Wolverhampton Wanderers to smash them 8-0, but I think City, they'll come back strong. I think they know they have to win. Liverpool have already won. Other clubs strengthening in the summer. Chelsea already winning. I think they'll know there's an opportunity with Chelsea, Liverpool playing, that if they win this game, that by match day 3 or 4, they could overtake both of them. So I think that incentive will push them beyond. Having said that, Wolverhampton Wanderers obviously did well against Sheffield United. Will have that extra games fitness, and they're used to playing 1,000 games a season. So they might hit the ground running, but I just don't think they'll have enough against City. I think City will actually beat them, and I think it'll be 3-1 actually. sadly. I think even we might see City going up 1-0 quite early on, Wolves coming back to it being 1-1, maybe Wolves missing a few chances, and then City getting a second and then killing them off with a third, and then Wolves not having enough. So I think that's how it's going to end. Just City winning that one 3-1. But it's going to be, again, a fascinating weekend of football, isn't it? And obviously I'm really excited for this one because Manchester United are involved. This could all change. I could be in tears by the end of tonight, but I'm hoping not. So yeah, that's my predictions for weekday 2. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment below and definitely subscribe if you haven't. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the weekend and see you on the other side.